public hearing in front of us. I'm going to open the public hearing now. We'd like to hear from Allison.
Allison Rang, consultant that has been working with the planning board on a number of zoning amendments related to recent state law changes from the past couple legislative sessions. So in your packet for this evening that had been focused on the planning board, there's a focus on special use permits. So state law now mandates that if a community has what we refer to as conditionally permitted uses. So those are land uses in your zoning ordinance that are not permitted by right. They're not permitted, but they require a special use permit. So they're permitted. And state law now says that if for those conditionally permitted uses, a municipality needs to specify specific and objective criteria for each of those within your local zoning ordinance. So, and one significant change and one reason why this is important for municipalities to address is that if those specific and objective criteria are not in your zoning code, that use is then permitted by right as a default. So some consequences are not addressing that. So the planning board, as a first step, evaluated by district each special use permits, whether or not they should be kept as a special use permit or required or allowed by right or not permit the use. Again, there was probably like 50 uses in your use table that currently were. It was a bit of a tedious task, but the planning board was very patient going through it all and drafting all those specific objective criteria. So there were also sections of the zoning code that need to be updated regarding special use permit, like the review process. So inserting state law language into those sections, in addition to updating the use table and drafting that criteria for each of the uses. So also in your packet, there's a couple things unrelated to special use permit updates. One was a minor change for comprehensive permits within the zoning code. There's really just a reference to comprehensive permits that needs to be updated. The bulk of the language related to comprehensive permits is drafted within the subdivision reg. Reference now references the subdivision regs, so we just updated that reference. But the new state law language related to comprehensive permits will be coming your way. It's with the planning board in the subdivision. And then the second, unrelated to special use permits, was there was a request to update the accessory dwelling unit ordinance. So there was the town had asked to update the maximum unit size, add that to your existing ADU ordinance, consistent with state law establishing that maximum. But there were other, as I reviewed it, I noticed there was other portions of that ordinance that were not consistent with state law. So you'll see in your package a number of red language that have been inserted. And that's all in an effort to be compliant with current state law on ADUs. So I can walk through, I don't know how much more detail, I can give a little more detailed summary of the amendments or.
I think that detail was.
Is that enough of a
enough.
summary? Okay. Happy to provide more walk through. Obviously, if you.
Someone needs something specific, I'm sure you'll be ready.
So.
Mr. DeSisto, I think you read through this and you've given it your blessing.
I have, yes. I think that Ms. Ring did an excellent job on this. She's correct. The language that you see here does conform to the changes in the state law. It's a comprehensive application to the town of Little Compton. It brings you in line with the Enabling Act. And again, of course, defer to Allison, but answer any questions you may have.
Gary, do you have a question?
Yeah, so on page 10,
I don't know.
riding stables, it went from wide to a special use. Is that so that we'd have more control over what happens? And it's just not plunked on a piece of land?
So right now, yeah, I was saying, yes, by right within, your residential district. Yes, having a special use permit would allow more oversight. If there were to be a new riding stable proposed in town, you have now standards within your local zoning code, so, it would be approved and, any approval would be subject to those standards.
But previously, you could just have it.
There was just, yeah, it was, yeah, so again, this was just one of those things where planning board had gone through each and reassessed whether or not those uses should be by right or written by a board before being permitted.
Okay, so on the next page, page 11. What I'm concerned about is we have quite a bit of home occupation here,
Yeah.
okay? And some of these things may prohibit that, like a general business office. And there was one that said a doctor's office or a medical treatment facility, where it says no in residential. Well, I guess that's meaning you mean a business, a facility that's got many doctors in it or whatever. I mean, we used to have years ago, doctors that worked out of their houses that had a separate place in the house, which would be their office. Because nobody had medical facilities in town back then. So this would basically prohibit that.
So this is, yes, a medical treatment facility, different than home occupation. So this table is your principal uses, so this would not be, this is for, a use that's specifically a medical treatment facility.
Okay.
Not a single family home with a doctor's office there. So the other table, there is, another table and section of the ordinance relating to home occupation. Then there was discussion back and forth with the board, but in the end, we tried to keep it as similar to what you have. Just some reformatting, no significant real changes there, but keeping your home occupation as like
So in answer to the counselor's question, there would be authority or a special use permit would be needed now to establish a medical service in a residential zone. Whereas before that was fine, right?
Well, concerns related to the
No.
occupation, not necessarily.
Home occupation.
Yeah,
Well, in a residential zone, you can't have it. It went, I'm not sure whether that was always been no. But anyways, you've answered my question.
Okay, thank
On
you.
page 13 at the top of it, C23, where it says Kennel Dog Care Training Center. Where it says no and no, where it used to be special use or yes. So if somebody has 10 acres of land, they can't have a dog kennel? Is that how I'm reading that?
this was one we had discussed, yeah, we had developed some.
I guess I'm getting all the ones that you discussed. That
That was something that, there was kennel in your current ordinance, and then, I discussed with the planning board, like, potentially expanding that, there's, sometimes you see now, like, doggy daycare centers and training.
Right, that's what I'm getting at.
Covered every possible kind of modern use right now, but, then developing the standards for that, we did, but then there was some discussion as to whether or not you really want that use in town, if it is a nuisance to neighbors, you know, the noise, not something you would necessarily encourage or want to encourage in town. So
Right.
this is the proposed draft language. It's
Okay.
changing that.
So I would be against that because there are a lot of people that work out of town that have dogs. And there's no facility in town where they can drop their dog off. And there is in Westport and Tiverton, but not in Little Compton where they can drop their dog off so the dog is well taken care of and not just left in a home for 8 hours a day. So I think that should be a minimum special use because it did go from special use and yes, from S and Y to N and N. So I think that has to be looked at. Page 15. I see all the 2-acre minimum, all that's fine. I didn't see any in here with substandard lot of record where the state has reduced the requirements, setbacks, and increased the minimum lot coverage from 10% to 18%, I believe. But I didn't see anywhere in here where it discussed substandard lots of record.
Because that should be.
We didn't cover, though, I know that there is new state law relating to granting setback relief administratively. So that's not something we covered in this
Okay, so I think it's not a bit,
being able to, if it's a smaller size lot, then the setback can then be adjusted by the building official and not require a variance, so. Yeah,
Right, correct.
that state law change, but that's not something.
If I'm not mistaken, we did that in a previously that issue was addressed as to, the non-conforming lots,
right.
the relief that you get for setbacks on that, and that is currently in section 14-2.7.
Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't taken out.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Page 18, I've got something. 14-5.5A. Eligibility, one accessory dwelling unit per lot shall be allowed by right under the following circumstances. On an owned occupied property as a reasonable accommodation for family members with disabilities. I thought the state said that it didn't have to be a family member with disabilities.
Well, then it says or, so that's.
Okay.
Potential use of an accessory
I
dwelling.
do see where it says or, but I just,
Yes. And it's saying, yeah.
so that conforms to state regulations.
It does, yes.
Just back to
Okay.
state law.
Okay. And page 19, customary home occupations on 14-5.6, 1A. There shall be a single household detached dwelling on the lot, and the operator of the customary home occupation shall occupy such dwelling unit as his or her primary and legal residence and domicile. So a lot of these, and I just want clarification here, okay? A lot of people in town have one unit on their property and they have a garage that's in that unit or attached to their house. And that's what they work out of is, this isn't going to require them to have a separate building to have a, home occupation.
No, so that language you just read off is in your current ordinance. There were no changes to that. But I know there's certainly language in here that discusses.
Right, okay.
It talks about, let's see where that is, where it says it could be an accessory. Might be under each of the.
What I'm trying to do,
It's about, it shall be carried out in an accessory structure such as a detached garage or barn and or within the principal residential structure. So that you'll see that language within the table
Okay.
for the specific home occupation.
I'm just asking for clarification, so.
Gary, I think it does, it also says, it says that, the gross floor area used for the home occupation shall not exceed 50% of the gross floor area of the principal residential structure.
Right,
So they can't have it in that structure, but just, they can't use more than 50% of that.
right. My concern is, page 22. Residential, and I'll just take, for example, right at the top, so, U or use category D, residential professional photography, it says yes, but it says it shall be carried out within accessory structures such as a detached garage or barn and or principal residential structure. So they can still, a lot of people in town might have had children that moved out and they have a spare bedroom. Now they want to turn it into a photography studio or some other revenue generating operation in that facility. So that's still allowed in the residential unit.
Correct.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a detached unit.
That's correct, yes.
Either.
And then it says a total number of customers permitted within a 24 period shall not exceed 6. So if you got a photography studio, you can't have more than 6 people come visit you in a day. Is that how I'm reading that?
Do you mind
That is.
if I answer? That's correct, yes.
Right. So when you get to 6 and it's noon time, you close the door and say, I've had my 6 customers come in. Well, I think that needs to be changed. How can you prohibit somebody from having, if they're running a home occupation and they're going to be doing a wedding or something and it's a photography studio and they're doing it out of their house, and you can say, okay, you get different people going to come in and talk to them about how they want it to happen. And you're going to say, okay, I've had my 6 people come to me today. Then no more people can come in. What if somebody's driving from Providence and they don't know that they're the 7th person and they get there and say, no, you can't come in. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to police that, but it's still an ordinance and it can be enforced. So I think that has to be changed. But I don't think there should be any limit. I mean, I know we're trying to make it so that there's not a cars waiting out somebody's house to get into some kind of,
The only caveat to that,
yes.
do you mind? I'm sorry, Alice.
No, I'm just asking,
Okay, I'm happy.
I don't care who answers it, but I'm just, something that struck me that,
The intent of this is if you have an ordinary and customary home use, the deterrent, the reason to put that as a deterrence from having it just being a commercial thing where there's constant traffic and then the neighbors are going to complain. I read 6 customers to mean if you got a family coming in, that's 1 customer.
right.
So there could be 12 of them, but that's okay because they're 1 customer. So essentially you've got 6 customers coming in. That means during the course of the day, you have no more than 6 groups coming in and 5 trips per week for a commercial thing. What that will do is draw the distinction between something that is an ordinary and customary home occupation and somebody that's trying to evade that by running a business out of in a residential area. I think that's why it's in there.
I could be wrong, but I think we have some people that grow vegetables in their backyard and they put them out in front. They have a little, stand, whether that's allowable or not, I don't know, but they're going to have more than 6 customers.
That's under the Right to Farm Act. It's not covered here.
This is specific to the photography studio, that standard, not to all home occupation uses. We're just trying to come up with, again, it's a challenge, but coming up with, to meet the state's criteria, coming up with standards by which you control these and review these uses. But no, it's not limiting, it's not a global limitation on their uses.
All right, so if you go down to residential professional office, including office operated by an attorney, engineer, architect, planner, that falls under the same guise as if they're doing it out of their house.
Yeah, so that, a
So-
lot of this language is existing in your ordinance and it wasn't changed, so.
Right, but now's the time, while we're doing it, now's the time to look at it again.
Yeah, so it specifies it could be accessory, such as a detached garage or barn, or within the principal residential structure.
So they're prohibited by 6 visits a day also?
I think that was, no, that's not specified, in this category of home occupation. There is a limitation on vehicle trips.
Okay,
And there's also within the home occupation, at the beginning of this section, standards for all, so we could refer back to that to see. see like a global standard of limitations on.
Because what I'm trying,
But that's one of those uses where you're not really, those are mostly
right.
that type of, you don't necessarily have as many in person.
So what I'm trying to do is prohibit most of the young people in town realize that farming and fishing is kind of a dead situation, so they're going to college, okay? So I'm trying to help them stay in town because we're known as a bedroom town. We get up in the morning, go out of town, okay? If we can keep more people in town, then maybe we can get our restaurants opened up again. Maybe we can keep some money in town here instead of spending it in Fall River or Providence or Boston, wherever these young people are going to go to work. So I don't want anything to prohibit them from having home occupations. If they're going to be a lawyer, they should be able to have it in their house until they get to a point where they can afford to expand and go into a regular commercial facility. So that was my thrust on these questions about 6 people and whatnot, and about having a detached facility. So,
Yes, and I know the planning board understands that we're in the local economy, wasn't trying to further restrict.
okay, that was about all I had. There was some more, but I'm pretty well satisfied that it's not going to be prohibitive to young people in town.
Any other questions or comments for anyone on this public hearing? Not seeing any, I will close the public hearing. Oh, I didn't, that's a late hand. That's a late one. Go ahead. Absolutely. Carol, are these? I don't hear these working.
Penny?
Not working.
My question would be, are there variances allowed for one occasion or 2 occasions or something? So like if you want to propose something for Old Trafford,
So variances in regards to, what type of a variance? Dimensional variance or use variance or?
or just more if you had a facility and all of a sudden you're gonna use it for a bigger event, like I used to have a studio in my house and I had the same amount of people, but all of a sudden if I was gonna do an event, it might be for like a weekend long, I was gonna have 30 people.
I would say that would fall under special event.
May I answer that?
Okay.
That's not covered by zoning. You can, if you're gonna have a special event where you're gonna be using more space, you're gonna put a tent up, whatever, then you come to the council for that type of a license, but it would not be handled by the zoning board.
Okay, but what about something that fell outside of all of these rules and regulations? And all of a sudden because I know when I opened my studio, I had to come and do a presentation to the zoning board to make sure that it's gonna be okay. And it was publicly notified, and so neighbors were here to ask questions and stuff. But that was something, I was trying to do something, I don't know if it was outside of the rules or not.
I think what you need to do is, this is the way you need to look at it broadly. Permanent zoning. Special council, because it's a special council.
We're special, all right. Oh, yeah, it's working now.
Well, that's the distinction.
Further comments.
One of the panels off.
Margaret Manning, come on in.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Page 8, so I see that there's an instance of provision where a use is not specifically listed below, such use is not permitted unless the building official shall, as it's a clause upon the request, provide written information to the requesting party, et cetera, et cetera. So what is the provision for recourse now? Because this table still, I believe, relies on the discretion of the building official in certain cases. So how do we address that interpretation? Like where would we be able to challenge that if you delete that provision?
Excuse me, challenge. challenge a decision of the building official?
Yes, to allow a use that is not specifically listed.
Okay. If you disagree with what the building official determines, that appeal is to the zoning board.
And is that addressed elsewhere?
Yes, it is.
So that's why it's duplication and can be deleted here.
Yes. I'm going to defer to Allison.
Yeah, I'll look at, so, I get the mic for,
You
thank
do.
you for the public, but. Yeah, so that section, there was changes to the state law related to that language, which is great about the use of not listed in the use table. That you can designate zoning official or the zoning board, building
Yes.
official as the party who can determine, okay, there a use in the use table that's most similar to. So actually, the Compton already had that policy really on the books, but I just inserted the state law language to make it the wording of it similar to state law. So there really isn't necessarily a change in what the current practice is here on that. But you said, so I can go back to that section. So in the current language, it references appealing to the zoning board and it doesn't in the updated language. So it's certainly that is the state law and that's what would follow. And like Tony said, it's probably already probably in another section where all decisions, like more of a global statement relating to that.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
check
trying-
on it, but your appeal goes to the zoning board and that
Yeah.
flows from state law.
So it would still be that process.
Further comments or questions? Not seeing any, I'm going to close the public hearing. And what is the council's desire? Do you want to vote to adopt?
This is all legalese, Mark, Tony.
Yeah.
Make a motion to adopt as written.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. Thank you. Announcements? Have a few announcements. I would like to take a moment of silence for our friends in Portsmouth that are experiencing horrific loss, a tragedy of a 15-year-old girl. We just have a moment now. Thank you. Other announcements, I'd like to recognize the Antique Car Show that was had this past weekend, which was a huge success, honoring the Helger family. And it really puts Little Compton in a great light and everyone that was a part of that. It's really a great event. Third, the legislative update concerning our budget. It's been pretty fluid today. My understanding today is that it has passed through the Senate consent agenda. It's now sitting in the House.
Pass the house.
It passed the House just a few minutes ago.
Yes.
So it's pretty fluid. It just passed. So now we await the governor's signature. I just want to recognize a few people who have done this and made this come to fruition to this point. Lou DePalma, Michelle McGaw, Tony DeSisto. These three people worked tirelessly to get to where we are today. It was pretty amazing. Randy Rossi, the Leagues of City and Towns. If anybody knows Randy Rossi, he's outstanding. Tony Texera, Andrew Arate Moore with his contacts up at the State House. And lastly, the taxpayers for their patience and understanding as we weave through this. So what has to happen now is the governor has to sign this. And there's been a full court press by all the people I've just mentioned. Governor's not working on Monday. He is in tomorrow. He is in Friday. And not Monday. And we have our financial town meeting Tuesday. So I'm hopeful that this gets transmitted over, is the word that I'm hearing, to him. I've been told that he knows about it from many people. So hopefully we'll have something to report tomorrow.
So just a couple of words so that anybody that's watching this. That was to increase the levy 12%, okay? Not your tax rate. Your tax rate is going to be $4.72 or 73 cents. So your tax rate is actually going down because most of the properties in town went up. So don't be concerned and think your tax on your property is going to go up 12%. It's not. That's erroneous. And I think this is going to be explained at the financial town meeting, and there's going to be a handout to tell you basically how much $500,750 million house is going to go up. So I'm not going to say anymore because I was just trying to expand on what the council president said.
Thank you, Gary. Approval of minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of May 20th, May 27th, and June 5th as written, unless anybody has any comments or corrections.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Department head reports.
Motion to place the department head reports on file unless anybody would like to pull anything for discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Old business one. Update on Rhode Island Fire Board of Appeal hearing, including need to authorize installation of a radio box at 32 Commons within 60 days. I went up to the fire board a second time up there. Some serious fire people up there. I went with Randy Watt and Little Compton Fire Consultant Ray Gomes. And they gave us a 1-year extension on the bottom floor of Oddfellows, with the requirement to put a radio box installed within 60 days. We have 2 quotes sitting here for the council to look at and vote. Radio box signals the fire department if there's a fire. Do I have a motion on one of these?
I don't know if we need a motion on that, do we?
We have two.
Okay, I got you. I thought we were gonna wait till we got into that section. What,
Not in that section.
Did the fire chief look at these?
Did we do the motion first and then decide?
Fire chief has looked at these.
Did he have a recommendation?
I move that we
Thank you.
award the work depression alarm.
Let's second that one. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll just add that we got the Crescent Alarm quote. First, Crescent Alarm is the company. Turn my mic. Crescent Alarm is the company that we're engaged with anyway over at that building. And so we went to them first and they gave us a good quote. We reached out to another place in Tiverton, but they were not licensed to do it. We contacted the fire chief. He recommended LW Bills and said that they were sort of the big provider of this and did a lot of this kind of work. So we got a quote from them. And the Crescent Alarm's quote is lower. So it seems like makes sense.
Thank you, Counselor.
so I see on Crescent Alarms, I see replace fire alarm panel and devices also include running MC cable EMT for a total of $10,857. And then 16 zone SIGCOM radio box for another $7,327. So are we talking 18,000 for them?
It's my understanding that we're looking at the standalone section within the Crescent Alarm quote for the 116 zone SIGCOM radio box totaling 7,327, that was a part of their whole quote. The quote was for a wireless system in the building, but this is just for the providing and installing and connecting the radio box. That's my understanding of.
And that's absolutely right. It's really right. It's a requirement to keep the bottom floor Oddfellows open.
Right,
Second,
I'm just saying the LW Bills company is 11,279.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that the Crescent Alarms is in the 10,857 plus the 7,327, which would put it over 18,000.
It's my understanding that it's not, that we're comparing the 7,327 standalone radio box quote that's embedded in this larger quote from Crescent against the LW bills, which totals over 11,000.
Okay, could you amend your motion to state that we're looking at the 7,327?
I made the motion.
Bob, I did.
Bob, you want to say the number? 7,000, was it
Do you
3,2?
see what I'm saying?
I do. The total that's described is 10,857, including a radio box.
No,
Is my
7,000.
understanding. That's not true.
No, the whole building needs all of this 10,857, all the wiring. But to satisfy the fire board, we don't have to do that.
Okay.
We just have to put a firebox in that costs $7,327.
Understood. Then my motion remains that we would award the low bidder.
Second.
Yes.
I have a question about it before.
Sure, go ahead.
Sal Marinosi, the radio box you're talking about, that service, that line will be utilized again in the overall service?
Yes,
It's a wireless service.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah,
so it's not a waste.
No waste.
Thank you.
thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Old business 2. Ray Holland requests to revisit a request made May 8th, 2025 concerning plat 15, lot 6361. I'm going to go to Tony DeSisto. We have some back and forth on this that I've been involved in. Tony, would you like to bring this to a quick end for us?
Yes,
Okay.
this is the second pass at this issue. I advised you previously that the actions that the town council had taken in regard to this property had been as acting as a planning board. And subsequent to the town council's actions, there was a Supreme Court case, Monroe versus the Town of East Greenwich, that said that, town councils can't do that. So that's a correct statement. However, when you're conveying property, you need to get a title policy. That's how your property becomes good record marketable title.
That,
Title company involved in this would like an action from the town council rescinding your vote in 1999 and declaring it null and void. Now, it already is null and void. However, because the title company wants that, and without that, this property can't be conveyed, I'm going to recommend that you do that. The motion would be that the vote taken in 1999 in regard to this property is declared rescinded and null and void.
So I'll make a motion that the decision in 1999 that was made on this property is null and void and needs to be rescinded because of the pesky title insurance company that are looking at every little comma and dot.
They're taking a belt
Add that.
taking a belt and suspenders approach. But as a rider to that motion, once it's passed, Carol, if I could just make sure that the language complies with what the title company wants, this matter can go forward.
Subject to the solicitor's review on my motion.
Second.
Would like to read it, Carol?
Sure. Town council vote taken in 1999 in regard to, and I will fill in the assessor's plat and lot number.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
It's declared null and void
And there's
And rescinded.
and
rescinded.
rescinded.
All in favor?
So, so there's no chance of any legal repercussions from some outside person on this saying, well, I was a party to that.
Not at all. The action that was taken was what is known as ultra-virus. It was beyond the scope of the authority of the town council to act at that time. So I am in favor of this because the town isn't changing its position at all. It's merely an acknowledgement at that time that it was an ultra-virus act, which, by the way, you did at the last meeting. But they want something specific in the vote for that.
They got it.
Is that going to satisfy you?
As Carol has it, yes.
He's never satisfied.
He's not. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
For some people, he is.
Moving Three, old business three update from Counselor McHugh and Mushin on the community center's monthly meetings with them, and we've discussed in our last meeting, ownership, leasing of the building, connecting the two buildings. They are supporting a new committee that will be later made in this agenda. They would like participation on that committee. Bob was with me. Bob, anything that I left out, please add.
I think you've characterized it correctly. Thank you.
No, we'll go over that, just an update. Okay, new business one. Carol, you can help me with this, please. Receive letters of interest for varied boards and consider appointments. One, Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust trustees. My understanding, there's one opening and there are three applicants.
Yes.
What is the feeling of the council who want to interview?
Oh, yeah.
I got a, oh yeah.
You wanna make a motion for that? I'll make.
We have the names first, so, because I don't have them.
Yes, you should have one of them anyways.
I have one of them, yes.
And actually you have the others. I gave them to you tonight. But their names are Ned Levine, who is the incumbent. Then you have Taylor Johnston and Tyler Young.
I'll make a motion that we interview 3 candidates before our next council meeting. Would that satisfy?
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. New business B, members of the pension committee. Annual term, I have 3. And I think all 3 have applied back again.
Yes.
I'll,
You have Trip Sampson, John Sweeney, and Roger Lord.
I,
To reappoint all 3.
Second.
all in favor? Aye, thank you. Harbor Master and Commissioner of Rex, annual term.
Yes. You have the incumbent, Mike Massa, who has shown interest.
Motion to reappoint Mike Masters, Harbor Master.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. New business D, Assistant Harbor Master.
You also have the incumbent who's shown interest to be reappointed. That's Christopher Brady.
Motion to appoint Chris Brady as Assistant Harbor Master.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes, thank you. E, Zoning Board of Review, 5-year term, I have 1.
You have one, Stetson Eddie. He's the incumbent.
Motion to reappoint Stetson Eddy to the zoning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. New business 2, request from Police Chief Rains to promote Sergeant Patrick Martin to the rank of Lieutenant/Deputy Chief and Corporal Andrew Morgan, the rank of Sergeant, both effective July 2nd of 2025.
I move to approve that motion. That,
With congratulations.
I have a second.
Second.
the Councilor Mataronis' congratulations to the members that have demonstrated be ready for the next step in process.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, thank you. Business 3, request from Police Chief Rains to transfer the part-time employment status of PT dispatcher Nicholas Diatello from part-time to full-time effective June 13th.
Motion to approve the chief's request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4, request from the town clerk, remove Abigail Wilkie from probationary status effective May 24th, 2025 due to her successful completion of a 6-month period.
Motion to approve the clerk's request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. New business 5, request from Fire Chief Petron to designate May 18th through the 24th as having been Emergency Medical Services Week in Little Compton, recognizing the accomplishments of Little Compton firefighters.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. 6, discussion and vote to accept letters of interest to be considered for a 5-member committee called the Town Commons Need Assessment Committee. I have a charge here for the council for their, whether they want to use this or not. The charge is to recommend next steps, town-owned buildings, 30, 32, 34 commons in consideration of community use, programming, and any related plans for necessary renovations and improvements. Recommendation is made to the council on September 4th, 2025. I'm going to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, so I've had some, I guess you're gonna solicit letters. I've had some people come up to me and they've already put their name in. I just had, I was gonna call it the Commons Building Committee for 30, 32, and 34 Commons. And I had Aris Sandiance as the Historical Committee. I talked to Bill Terrio from the Community Center. Chris Donovan's been pretty active with this. She actually put a conceptual design together. And then, so she'd be representing the senior citizens. Brandon Pinio would represent the Odd Fellows. And our senior director, I think, Bob Pat Howard.
I think we have 3 out of 5 of those people have submitted letters of interest already. I think the first 3 that you mentioned, is that right, Carol?
At this point,
At
yes.
this point? Okay.
I've also, in my recommendation, I left out, this is I recommend a 5-member committee. This motion is to create a committee.
Okay.
So we need to do that first, to create it. It's a 5-member committee to recommend the next steps for town-owned buildings, 30, 32, 34 Commons in consideration of community use, programming, and related plans for necessary renovating and improvements. Recommendations made to the council September 4th. I do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So are you recommending now a 5-member committee? Because we had 7 on the Building Review Committee. And a couple of times we had a couple of people that didn't show up, so we would only have 3 people. So
I am recommending 5 and I can be persuaded to 7 to change my motion.
can I take you behind the wall?
No.
If somebody.
Done.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate.
And my motion to 5 to 7. Any further discussion?
So what is your next plan? Are we going to accept more letters of, well, that should be in your motion to accept letters of interest and
Yep.
applications?
Yep, we will accept, thank you. We're going to accept all letters. And we'll name the committee on our next meeting.
So the motion is now discussion and vote to accept letters of interest to be considered for a 7-member committee, the Town Commons Needs Assessment Committee, and subject to the conditions you put on it.
That's correct. All in favor?
Hi,
Aye.
thank you, Patrick.
Pass that down to Carol, please. Okay. New business, discuss with the town solicitor the process for tax sales on delinquent properties and to discuss collection options for tangible and excise delinquent taxes. You have the floor, Tony.
Okay, when you're talking about collection of taxes, you have to me, you really have to divide them into 2 parts. The first part is tangible taxes, and then the second part is your real property taxes. I'm going to address the collection of tangible personal property taxes first because it's easier. And that is under Title 44, Chapter 7 of the General Laws. Cities and towns in the state of Rhode Island collect taxes, the tangible taxes. They basically hire some firms that are specialized in this. Those firms do not charge fees unless they're successful in the collection. They know what they're doing. They give regular reports that show up not only in the finance office, but also come to the council too. I can tell you right now, based on the town's collection history for delinquent taxes in this area, the first report you're going to get from them is these taxes can be collected legally. These taxes can't. And what you need to do is abate them and get them off your books. That's the first thing that you're going to see. After that, they will contact the taxpayers and do the best that they can. You'll get another report and say, we're not going to be able to collect here. Here we did collect, this is what we got. These are the cases that will put in suit. So that's the first thing, and I'd recommend that you do that. You can put on an RFP. There are firms that do that. You'll be able to speak with other communities with their how they've handled that. That's part one.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion on that and just do them separately because they are different.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we hire a firm to collect our tangible collections and put an RFP out for that.
That was a quick motion,
I'll second it.
and it's a quick second. Further discussion, I see a hand. Mr. Kennedy, I recognize you. If you'd like to come up and talk about tax sales.
Well, we're not on tax sales yet.
Not a tax.
We're not on tax sales yet.
Yeah, it's different. It's
Well, I'm sorry, I meant to say, I
different.
don't know why I said it.
Tangible and
Tangible is what we're talking about right now, correct? Tangible, that's what we have to talk about right now.
Some experience in these matters.
Okay.
I retired from Bank of America as the global executive assets. I was a senior officer responsible for a portfolio in excess of several $100 million, ranging anywhere from $100 overdraft to several $100 million. Well, the collection of, financial delinquencies is a topic that requires both discretion and some degree of empathy. And I would encourage that the council consider what policies they might develop, procedures that they might follow to mitigate some of the blowback that you could expect when you go to collect. As an example, you may want to consider collecting the financial information from the delinquents to determine whether in fact they have the capacity to pay. Leaving aside motivation.
question.
That is not always forthcoming, but most often that can be in the form of tax returns. You might also consider inquiring about their various bank statements and assets other than their real estate. The taking of the process, the taking of the asset can take two forms. The sale of the delinquent portion or the taking of the title as to the property itself. And that are two different collection methodologies, assuming that payment plans have been frustrated over a period of time. One of the risks of selling the delinquency is that is a process that historically has been abused because you sell the delinquency to an investor who then turns around and forecloses on the property. And there can be substantial abuses in that process, and it's fairly well known what those can be. Fortunately, there's been a recent Supreme Court case that dealt with the excess equity capture that solves some of those problems. On the other hand, if the town were to take title, I'm assuming that that would be prior or after having done an environmental assessment of the property, so that the town is not fall heir to environmental liability.
We get to that later. It's just tangible.
There are some other policy issues that you might want to consider. And those might include, during the redemption period, will the town remove the occupants of the structure? Will they, if you have title to, are you going to ask the people to remove themselves during your title holding?
So, Mr. Kennedy, if I could just interrupt you.
Can I address that? But Sure. Here's the thing, that's for the second part of it.
Yeah.
I'm right now focusing on
Yeah.
intangibles.
Do you have any tangibles that you want to talk to us with?
I think that depends very much on what they are. But the same general principles apply. You know, are you going to take someone's tools for their trade?
No.
Well, but those,
Can I answer it?
Go ahead.
If I may, and I don't mean to cut you off, but the collection of debts due to taxes by municipalities is governed by Title 44, Chapter 7 for the tangibles. I'm going to get to tax sales secondly, and I'll address the issues that you brought up. But this is never a situation where the town will repossess something. They'll go after the tax payments, and there are rules that what the town can collect and can't collect. And what I said earlier, I still hold with. You're going to get reports from the companies that specialize in this, and they'll say, "Look, you're not going to be able to collect it. They can't pay. You can't collect it because you know what? There was an issue with the registration of the vehicle. You were charging it because the registry didn't give you the correct information. Cancel a debt. This one you can collect, and we will collect it." So what you've said pretty much happens on it. This is not analogous to private companies. A town can't sell tax debts to a company and bundle it, and then all of a sudden you have somebody coming after them. That's not something they can do. In the end, because there is a much smaller statute of limitations on what you can collect, the tangibles, as opposed to what you can do privately, which is 20 years in Rhode Island, that those issues don't crop up. So I think the concerns that you raised are the correct ones. I think the General Assembly has addressed them for tangibles, but I would like to get to, after this motion is heard, to the main point, which is where most of the taxes are owed, and that would be the tax sales, if I may make the presentation.
thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Kennedy. Do you have a motion on the floor?
Yeah.
I second.
Have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, thank you.
Right. Mr. Kennedy actually brought up some very good points, which I will address when it comes to tax sales. And there's some other issues you need to know too. Tax sales are governed in this state by another chapter of the general laws. That's Title 44, Chapter 9. And real estate taxes, in order for the town to conduct a tax sale, and you know, most communities do this on an annual basis. What happens is the taxpayer needs to get notice. The first notice is a 90-day notice, 90 days before the tax sale. So what will happen is the town needs to select a date when the tax sale will take place and then work back from there. Now, I have the 90-day notice form. I will work with Tony on this because your finance director is actually your tax collector, and I know there's a little bit of a transition time. That's the official. That is the town official that is designated for this. So once you know what the delinquency is, and we're going to get to the definition of delinquency shortly, but you send the taxpayer the 90-day notice and say, we're scheduling a tax sale in 90 days. And you know, you're delinquent. Here's how much you owe. This is what you have to pay. Some taxpayers, when they're alerted to that, you'll get money right then. There is a second step for notice, and that's the so-called 30-day notice, although it really is 40 days. That's by certified mail, saying the tax sale is on this date. This is when we're going to start advertising it. If you don't pay, you'll get more payments then. If you don't, of course, you have the tax sale, but you're also required to have a notice of tax sale in the Secana Times. And that would be for 3 consecutive weeks prior to the tax sale. Assuming that a taxpayer does not pay at that time, then the property goes up for tax sale. So Mr. Kennedy brought up some points about that. what happens at the tax sale? Two things happen. There'll be a bunch of people show up and all they have to do is bid on the property to pay the taxes. And once there's a group of these investors that go around the state, they'll pay the taxes. They'll pay the taxes to the town. And in exchange for that, they will get what's known as a tax title deed from the finance director. Okay. From there, the true owner of the property, they have a tax title. The true owner has the a 1 year to redeem. And they can, actually, they don't pay the town because the town's already been paid. What they do is they have to pay the person that bid successfully on their property. And by statute, they get interest, they get their costs, they get the title search and everything else. So it's kind of a guaranteed investment. If they don't pay within the year, the entity or person that purchased the tax title can foreclose the equitable right of redemption and then own the property in fee simple absolute. That's the process. So here's the thing. What happens if there's a tenant in the property or the person is living in the property? The successful bidder is the one that deals, and by the way, is responsible to pay the taxes. They deal with the tenants, not the town, because you've been paid. That's the first thing. The second thing is there may be some properties that the town, nobody bids on. Mr. Kennedy's correct. If the tax title deed goes to the town and there's an environmental hazard on the property, then the town has responsibility for that. You have to be careful. So that's something that will be addressed afterwards, but it is a legitimate concern and some towns have been clipped by that. So you have to be careful. So that's the process. First question. Who is a delinquent taxpayer? Like who goes on there? So to me, my advice, it's up to you. My advice is if a taxpayer is delinquent in any amount, they get the 90-day notice. If they're haven't paid for that current quarter, fine. If you want to give them a quarter break, that's fine. But any taxpayer that owes should go on that list. And then it should be on an annual basis. Some towns will say, well, they've got to be a year late or 2 years late. But to me, that creates issues for the taxpayer. If you allow for that tail, it becomes more difficult for the taxpayer to pay the bill because it becomes too large. That's something you have to take a look at. It won't be an issue so much now because you haven't had a tax sale in many years. So you're going to see some large numbers there, and that might be difficult for the taxpayers. You have the ability to make arrangements with taxpayers, but that's a slippery slope. But it's something that you can do. So other than that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So I've been after this 7 or 8 years now, okay? Because there's people on the tax rolls that haven't paid in over 10 years. They're not going to pay, or they think they're not going to pay. Because why should they? Because nobody's coming after them. They're going to get a rude awakening. The last time I actually got some action done, we did send out the notifications and people came in right away. They just had to get that little nudge. And, you know, some say, oh, I didn't know I owed any taxes. No, you're living in town for nothing. Okay, so, but anyways, that created a situation where we got money coming in. So I think this is long overdue and should be done. Now, if there's a person out there that has financial difficulties and extenuating circumstances, all they have to do is come in and talk to the tax assessor, the financial director, and let them know. And the financial director will give the notification to Carol and the town council can take it up if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Although it's a slippery slope.
Well, we don't want to put anybody out of the houses, and you are correct. Once somebody buys property for the, whatever taxes are owed. Person has 1 year to come up with his taxes and pay the person back who bought it. So there's many ways out of this for the taxpayer, but it's not fair to everybody that pays their taxes religiously. And especially right now, when we're in kind of a tax bind, where we need income to the town, it's time to do it. And I don't think we'll be faulted to do it. There's many avenues. There's the 90-day grace period, then there's another 40 days. And a lot of people are going to come in and pay their taxes as they should have already done. So I'll make a motion. We need to start this.
May I suggest some language?
Sir.
I'm gonna make a motion first, then we're gonna get discussion.
Okay, the motion would be to,
This, Gary.
Well, I'm going to just say, and that's my,
yeah, I'd like to suggest a language if it's okay.
He's memorized.
And that would be that the town undertake that the town initiate the process for a tax sale no later than October 15th, 2025. And that the 90-day notice to delinquent taxpayers be sent within the next 2 weeks.
Well said.
my motion.
Well said, Gary.
I'll second that motion.
Have a second. We are under discussion. I'm gonna go Sal then Kennedy. Sal's up first, Mr. Kennedy, you bet second.
First of all,
To the microphone, sir.
on your motion for October.
To the microphone. No.
To the microphone.
Microphone.
You can hand me.
The people. I get, make sure that's on. Make sure it's on with the blue dot, green dot. I've done all I could.
The motion for October, in my view, is a little late because we're going into the Christmas time in the 90 days. Okay, that's one point. Another point is because of the amount of taxes that are in the arrears this year, almost $1 million. My suggestion is in the motion that you designate one person other than finance director, because that's going to be an operation of continuity because of the amount of work that's going to be done. You know, our law firm is default law. That's what we do. So what I'm suggesting is that you take somebody specifically and tax them with following through with all these items. They're going to be collecting enough money, hopefully, that position will be absorbed by the cost will be absorbed. And it's my experience that you're going to need somebody that's on this constantly. Okay, it gets very involved, as you know, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you.
By definition, the tax collector is actually the finance director. But I do think that you have a good suggestion that there be somebody designated, coordinate this, because that's correct. I think
Either a paralegal or somebody
somebody in town hall.
Well, somebody in the town hall, but somebody with a little bit of legal experience too. Besides Carol, she's got enough to do, but what I'm saying is that this position, you have no idea what goes on because I've been involved with it. And what goes on is unbelievable. So.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if it was stated that,
The last time we did it, Sal, it wasn't that atrocious. It seemed to work pretty smoothly, but I'm not saying that that'll be the same way this time, okay? I think once we do the 90 days, the problem was last time we didn't follow up after the 90 days. We didn't send, I think we sent a second notification out and then we kind of dropped the ball. This time it's not going to happen.
I don't know if it's been said, but.
No. 750 and 100.
Okay, so it's 750,000 property. It's 100,000 tangible. Just to be clear, it's not 1 million. I think that's 850. Mr. Kennedy.
Suggestion that the council develop a written policy so that you avoid questions with spirit treatment.
Would the solicitor be willing to do that?
I would, but I gotta tell you something. The gentleman is correct. But, to me, it's difficult to make those types of distinctions. Because every time you give somebody a break, another taxpayer is going to say, well, why'd you give him a break or her a break? Well, why'd you do that? Oh, that's correct, that you should have a policy and I'll give you one, but it's going to be strict.
Was that in your motion, Gary?
Yes, it is.
I knew, I heard it.
Very good, Gary.
Very good, Gary. There's a motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any. Thank you.
Thank you, Solicitor.
Thank you.
New business 8, discuss and act on a contract with landscape architect Kevin M. Alverson, LA of Wickford, Rhode Island for design and permitting services associated with the green stormwater infrastructure improvements on Taylor's Lane, funded through the Overflow Sewer Grant, OSG program. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
What is the motion?
Tony, to,
Would be to award the contract.
and then to contract. Contract is in your packet.
So the
Go ahead.
motion is to accept the proposal of Kevin Alverson to serve
Yes.
as in this capacity.
Yes. Yes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. New business 9. Consider executing a memorandum of understanding with Kim Jacobs, consultant regarding MRP Action Grant Administrative Liaison with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank and the town. I will make a motion to enter into a MOU with Kim Jacobs.
Second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Recommendation from the town administrator for the purchase of a new lawnmower for the DPW department. I'd like to ask Tony, could you get our DPW director to inspect that lawnmower specifically and get back to us at the next meeting?
Certainly.
Thank you. New business 11.
Just one,
Oh, go ahead.
we had some concerns by some citizens. When we bought the last lawnmower, the next time we try to buy a battery electric one, but the battery electric one is 2.5 times the one that is being recommended, so I think we're gonna have to wait on that. So do you want to make that in the form of a motion to allow these?
Make a motion to have the DPW inspect the lawnmowers and specifically tell us what his inspection reveals by the next meeting.
Move to.
Have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. New business 11, request from Town Beacon Productions. Use of the Little Compton Ball Field as a vacation, parking staff vehicles during upcoming event. I checked with the Little League. The dates are June 20th, 23, and 27. I checked with the Little League in the rec department. There'll be no games there. I'm working with Josh Dobbins. Is that his name? Gibbons, to make sure that any cars that are parked on that field are parked correctly and not going to disturb the field at all. So I can make a motion that,
Excuse me.
yep,
If the motion is to approve, make it subject to the signing of a suitable site agreement with Two Beacon Productions. And I only say that because I have 2 concerns. Number one, that there be an indemnification agreement by Two Beacon. And 2, that also if there is any damage to the field, that they agree to restore it to the condition it was prior to them using it. Now, that's a 1-page agreement that they have for another community. I've already negotiated one of these. This is a very large production, which is encompassing several communities in the estate. But I think it's appropriate to have it here, even that this is a very limited ask in terms of use.
what do you call, what, a site agreement?
They have it. They're going to give me a form which will tailor.
So I'll make my motion to approve this per site agreement from the second.
Correct.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Board of Licenses, as commissions, as the town council sit as the Board of Licenses. Request from Gnome Surf for a Class F 1-day retail beverage license for a clam bake to be held on August 24th, 2025 at the Little Compton Game Club facility on John Dyer Road.
Motion to approve.
Second.
With all, state and local ordinance adhered to.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. None opposed. Thank you. Sitting as a board of licenses, request from the Little Compton Community Center to secure a Class B BL retail beverage license for the use at the community center in lieu of use for a Class F one-day retail beverage license throughout the year. Location 34 Commons. I will ask the clerk to advertise a hearing date. And we will need a vote to advertise.
Do we also need to add this item to our list of allowable licenses that we can grant? I'm not aware that we have such a.
A BVL is, we have two of those, or had two of
Are
them.
they spoken for?
One is in use, the Commons Lunch. The other one was Simmons Store, but that one has floated to open range at this point in time because they let it lapse.
So there's an open.
There is an
license.
open BVL.
Thanks.
So this is in lieu of coming back and asking for like 8 nights a year. So it'd be a good
12 a year is what they
12 a
are.
year.
Yeah, they're trying.
And this is only for beer and wine.
Yes.
Motion to approve,
Second.
to advertise.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Communications. Ratify the action of the town clerk in the issuance of a mobile food establishment license, Martinez Food Truck LLC DBA Barbecue Mas, participating in the Village Green events throughout the next 6 months, compliant with the state and local requirements. Have a motion?
Motion, you've already approved, Cal. Motion to ratify.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, thank you. Communications 2, request for a mobile food establishment license for the Coop, a mobile food dispensing vehicle. Request to be placed on land known as 72 Crandall Road, abutting land in Westport, Mass. Mr. DeSisto, we discussed this. Can you just give me a quick update on it?
Well, Title 5, Title 5, Chapter 11.1 of the general laws governs the operation of mobile food establishments in any city or town. And there is no bar for, by the way, this qualifies as an MFE because it's got wheels. Apparently, it's a trailer. Qualifies as an MFE. There's no bar to having such a MFE, a fixed spot in a community. So
Thank you for your research on that. I will make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I need to know what your motion was because I
Oh, I'm sorry.
did not get it.
Sorry. The motion is to allow the Coop mobile food dispensing vehicle be placed on land known as 72 Crandall Road.
With all local and state ordinances adhered to.
Thank you, Gary. I have,
it does have its MFE license, right?
that's my understanding, yes.
They have a state one and they have applied for the local one because we have a local license as well.
Okay, is the local license going to be issued to the Coop in this motion?
Yes, that's what is the request.
Okay, thank you.
Local would be helpful in the motion, I think.
Hold on one second. Just hold on one second. Hold on.
Is that spot zoning?
What's that?
No,
No?
no,
All right, thank you. We have,
the zone's not being changed.
thank you. So we have a motion on the table with a second. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, thank you. 3, communications copy of public notice from Coastal Resource Management Council, consideration of an application received from Secana Point Club, Inc., 11 Bluff Head Ave, Plat 9, lots 433, 434-1, 434-2, 434-3, 438 Secana Highway, file number 2025-03-013 for state assent for construction and maintenance of a saltwater intake structure.
So the head of the Harbor Commission here, I'd like to have him give us a synopsis. The Harbor Commission actually had a meeting at 5 o'clock tonight, their regular meeting, so this was discussed in quite length. So he'll give you an idea of what's going on.
Good evening. Yes, so this part of a consent application to CRMC for reconfiguring the inlet and the outlet of the freshwater system, the desalination system at Secana. This element of their application was done first, and so CRMC forwarded this for comment, but I know but we recognized that the configuration that the engineering firm is proposing does not take full account of local practices at the harbor, specifically the fact that loaded lining up at town dock where they're proposing to have running out in proximity of and those vessels coming in with a catch are circulating fresh seawater through their old tanks while they're in the process of unloading, which can take several days. But considered in the system design that was proposed. There's also tidal flow that goes in and out of that covered channel between Salt Marsh and the harbor. Beach is actually a value. And again, the Ryan outlet is in proximity to that pipe. And it's otherwise a very low circulation area, which is a concern in the system on a daily basis. So you have the sense of the committee was to recommend that they go back to the drawing board on this element and try to move the Rhine outlet closer to the harbor further. And maybe as simple as the two channels they're proposing for in and out east. But in discussion with the Point Club, their rep to the Harbor Commission, as well as the president today, they're welcome better engagement with us on the entire package, the ascent package to CRMC. We'll do that, but for the time being, our recommendation is that you reply to CRMC with your version of the motion that you provided in writing this evening, that they do redo the design, but especially to move it away from that. All of the stakeholders, especially the it's also my understanding we're just an advisory board to you, so we will not be communicating this back to CRMC. It is a sense package for comment that we as the council that initiate the
I didn't notice from the description, what's the purpose of replacing the current system?
Let me,
the club is under the unfortunate circumstances that all of their water that goes to their reverse osmosis system comes from local wells, in the parking lot area and all. And those local wells are all in different states of failure. And they're also putting a very silted water, that they're offering to the reverse osmosis system. And someone who has lived with reverse osmosis water on the submarine, they want fresh seawater. And so there's a huge amount of treatment that's required upstream of the RO system for that water to desalinate. Then a gallon of fresh water becomes, a gallon of seawater becomes a half a gallon of usable water and a half a gallon of water with twice the amount of brine in it. That's what's being discharged. So the plan for the Point Club is to be able to just pull in seawater from the harbor rather than from using well water that's contaminated. The right word, but well water that's much more complex. Bring in fresh seawater from the harbor, go through the reverse osmosis process, and Line is currently permitted to go into the harbor from the existing system. It's just more cumbersome in the plant to do it the way they're doing it right now. Part of our recommendation for moving the system provides us more margin for if in the future they need to increase their capacity, their throughput, having that diffuser, the outlet diffuser as conservative of a place as possible gives them more margin as well without needing to reconstruct yet again. So we think it's best for all. We all recognize it's very unfortunate that there's a design that's way but cheaper paper to make it right. And the club is very forthcoming in working with all the stakeholders on the evolution of that design. So
Let me give you a little synopsis. First of all, the Sakana Point Club has been very amenable to working with all the fishermen down there. We appreciate that very much. We share joint waters with the Point Club and the fishermen. This started when the Point Club first came to fruition, where there were obviously down the point, there's not a lot of fresh water. So they drilled some wells over on the west side of the parking area. Water from that going into reverse osmosis. They had a pipe going underneath ground, going west of their parking lot, probably 3 or 4. That pipeline didn't last very long because of the turbidity at Sakana Point. It broke. They tried to fix it again, and eventually Coastal Resources allowed them to put it directly to the north of their club. Okay. Now, because those wells aren't giving them enough water and they're in disrepair, they want to try to draw water from the harbor for the reverse osmosis. And they're going to draw it actually where they were putting the outflow with the very salty water coming out, which didn't seem to be too much of a problem for the fishermen. Now they want the outfall to come out by the town dock, which is the southwest corner of the harbor, which is a very unique area. It has an estuary, a pond, takes water in and out. It has all kinds of wildlife in there, blue crabs, quahogs, mummies, certain types of fish. And also from the yacht club going all the way around to the town dock is quahog beds. And what the concern of the fishermen is that the salinity of this water, as Ben said, it goes in, 1 gallon goes in, a half gallon gets turned to fresh water. The other comes out twice as salty as what it originally was. So nobody's sure about what's going to happen. But this southwest corner is a corner that the water stagnates in there. So any kind of shellfish there, we're concerned that it's going to be maybe, I'm not sure what's going to happen. That's the problem. That's why we want a little bit more information. But the main problem is when guys catch lobsters, they have circulating tanks that pump fresh water in, goes through lobsters and goes overboard. So if they sit there for a couple hours and they're getting water that's twice as salty as what it's supposed to be, we don't know what will happen. We're asking for more information. As I said, we're not against the Point Club doing this. We're hoping they might be able to switch the pipes around and put the outflow water closer to the mouth of the harbor where the whenever the harbor will take it out. So, and my recommendation would be the letter that came from the Harbor Commission be forwarded to Coastal Resources for our concern from the town council. Solicitors read the letter, I assume.
I did, and I think it's appropriate to send out, you might also in the community, the agency state that it's acceptable by the town to have the Harbor Commission make comment also.
Yeah.
I put those in Camp Pendleton in California. And we had to do 3,000 feet with injection wells to get rid of the discharge. The injection wells were, you probably know where they are, Bob, halfway up near the border patrol station.
I don't know what you're talking
Before the
That's classified information, Sal.
we had to put those in to take care of that problem. Because initially it inundated an area that was almost a mile square.
That's,
Okay, so that's how we accomplished it. Injection wells.
thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I made a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Ben.
And
Thank you.
That's some bad news on this next one. Communications receive a letter of retirement from Sue Sisson as the town's Director of Social Service effective November 30th, 2025. I have to receive this with regret. It's been almost 30 years since Sue has been on board, and she's been invaluable to this town. And there's probably a lot of other people that could say things about her that I probably don't know. So thank you.
oh, so Sue gladly ask for reappointment every 2 years. And that's been done unanimously because she's such a tremendous asset to our senior population. She's trusted by the seniors. She's done a good job. I have never heard anything very spoken about her. So I would like to thank her so very much for her 29 years of service.
Thank you, Sue. I'd like to add that I got to know Sue a little bit when I was the chair of outreach at the Congregational Church. And she would sometimes call me or I would call her with certain things. And the types of phone calls that Sue gets are from folks who are in a bad situation very often, and sometimes the toughest times for them. And it really takes a special person to do that kind of work. You will be very, very hard to replace. Everything I know about you and everything I've ever heard people say is that you handle things with compassion and discretion, and people trust you, as Gary said, and that's going to be very hard to replace. So thank you so much for your good work.
Tony?
If I may, Mr. President, it certainly, at the beginning was not easy to build a little trust, but we did over time. And certainly it has been an honor and a pleasure to work with you. And, just reading through the monthly reports, it's amazing how much work you do for our seniors in town, not just seniors, even some of the young folks at the school. It certainly has been very appreciated, even though at times may not show that, but it has. And certainly you'll be greatly missed, even though I've only known you for a short period of time, unlike many of these other folks. But thank you for all of the service that you provided, and God bless.
Thank you.
Now, someone that started $300 salary a year and 3 bags of unopened mail passed on to me. That's my training. Wow. Survived.
And has endured an hour and 35 minutes of this meeting in order to. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thanks. Communications 5, request received from Sherry Arnold to use the baseball field near Wilbur McMahon School and Veterans Field for a film screening
Finally, Jerry.
on August 1st as part of the LC 350 celebration. Portable blow-up screen will be located for viewing, and AV company will be handling the film responsibilities and will be open to the public for free. I have talked with the rec committee. They are on board. I have talked with, I've heard Village Improvement has said that's okay. DeSisto, do you want to add a rider to this one too, or?
Didn't catch you. He didn't catch it.
We didn't. So, go ahead.
So close that you're mumbling a little bit.
Tony,
What's going on here?
you want to add anything to this thing for the field? You're not going to drive cars on the field, right?
No cars, right?
So I'm gonna make to save a little bit of time, I'm gonna make the motion that we allow, Sherry to go forward with her, festivities
Screening.
or screening with all, local and state, here too.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Thank you. Communication 6, request of Robert Skeving to renew his private detective license for the ensuing year.
And the chief left.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Thank you. Request from Fred Boddington III to renew his trash hauling license for the ensuing year. One vehicle in excess of 10,000 pounds.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Communications 8, copy of an email received from an Island Division of Statewide Planning, sharing set of draft long-range transportation plan documents available through a link on the website. Comments deadline is July 11th, 2025.
Motion placed on file.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Communications 9, email from R.S. Sargent and Ontario formally submitting their names. Interested parties to serve on the committee that we just voted. I think we need to vote on that.
Nope.
Consent agenda?
Motion to place consent agenda on file unless anybody wants to pull anything for consideration.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. To pay the bills as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.